if anybody wants to cut out the recording at any point, if you're like, actually, I have a very top secret question I want to ask, then just let us know and we can have the top secret time of the meeting later. That's for then the people who weren't here to join in the fun. They won't get the top secret part, but we'll have that. And then, yeah, I'm going to try to run through a bunch of just some big headers here of things that we need to cover. But then if you have questions, I think what I'd encourage folks to do is once we do some introductions real quickly, to just start dropping those questions in the chat. I'll try to get to most of them, and then Stefanie, Carla, and I will navigate the rest and report out to folks. But let's start with some quick intros. Let's actually keep with the oranges and hot dogs. So let me know last time you had an orange and last time you had a hot dog. That's going to be our icebreaker for today. If you can't remember one or the other, that's okay too. So give us your name.
And which one do you like best?
And Desi, my 7-year-old assistant back here, would like to know which one you like best and a time that you had one or the other recently. And then, what year you are in the program, which most of you have dropped in there. And if I know a couple of people are like, I am sort of doing this from work, that's fine. So you can add your stuff in on the chat or just pop on quickly if you can. So Emily, can you start us off because you're up high on my list over there?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Emily, I mentioned in the chat that Angie and I run the art jams and we hope you'll join us. So I like to eat hot dogs in the summer. So probably last time I had one was in the summer. I do prefer oranges because I'm a Floridian. It's just like in my blood practically, but my friend she roasted lemon, never mind. But I don't typically eat them, but I do like oranges, but I like lemons and grapefruit more.
Nice. Thanks, Emily. And Emily, can you just call on somebody else?
Sure. Linda.
Yes, I prefer hot dogs, but not hot dog people. And then there's a great quote by this show called Practical Jokers, when the guy cues like, hey, hot dog, want a hot dog? Anyway, it's a New York thing. And so I haven't had a hot dog for like 5 years, but I prefer them. And orange about a week ago. Yeah, thank you.
Linda, call on someone else for me, will you?
Yes. Hey, Brenda.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Just joined this info session because I might be, joining the program in the fall. So I'm just interested. So I prefer oranges. And I think the last time I had it was in a Aperol Spritz because it comes with the drink. But that's what I recall. Next person, Anna.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Nice to see everyone. So does orange juice count? Yes. I had orange juice this morning. I prefer oranges, obviously, but hot dogs are also nice. And I had a hot dog last week that I made. I bought the bun and ketchup and pickles.
Oh.
The whole thing.
You didn't make the hot dog.
Oh, no, I didn't. No, I mean, I put the sausage inside the bun. Yeah. But I didn't get it at like the, classic New York location.
Okay.
And who else? Stefanie.
Hi, my name is Stefanie. I am one of the program assistants, but I'm also an alum of the program. I got my master's in 2016. So some things I remember are hopefully still accurate or true of things. And I had, I had an orange over the weekend, but probably I prefer hot dogs because they remind me more of like summertime and baseball games and fun things. And I did have a corn dog somewhat recently, which felt very delightful. And I'll go over to Esther.
Hello, I'm Esther John. I will be starting the program this spring. So nervous, excited for my first classes, mostly excited at this point. Between oranges and hot dogs, I prefer oranges. And I think the last time I had one was like 2 weeks ago. I like the color. I'm also allergic to a lot of fruits, and oranges are one of the fruits I can eat. And I like that they are a fruit that can be easily shared, where you can just give wedges out. So yeah, and I will pick Mariah.
Hi, I'm Mariah. I'm starting in, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. I'm starting in the spring, like Esther. And I had an orange, well, it wasn't like an orange, but it's like this kind of tangerine thing. I had that last night. My last hot dog was probably in like 2013 because I don't eat meat, and I haven't had a veggie dog actually, I don't think ever. But yeah, there you go. I'm just here to get some, just to see what's up. Oh, Victoria.
Hi, I'm Victoria. I love hot dogs, but only specific ones like Hebrew National, or there's a local hot dog stand by me called Walter's. That's outstanding. But overall, I prefer oranges because I know they're healthier for me. But I mostly eat clementines because they're easier to peel than oranges. So I can't remember the last time I ate an orange, but I ate a clementine yesterday. Nina.
Hey everyone, my name is Nina. The spring will be my second semester in the program. It was very nice my first semester this fall, despite the mostly online aspect of it. And the last time that I had an orange was yesterday, but I have to say it was a little bit of a disappointing orange. I love oranges when they're like really sharp and orangey-y, but this one was kind of like a little watery and not as exciting. But I still would say oranges over hot dogs. Jen.
Hi, Jen, and it's hard to describe. I started off with 2 classes per semester, and then I kind of petered out into one. So I'm kind of 3/4 done with the program. So I don't really go by semesters. I don't know how that would go. And love the program, very excited. It's amazing group of people. And I'm excited to see people more in person. I started right when the pandemic hit. So it's been a journey. It's been exciting, but I can't wait to see people in person. The last time I had an orange was yesterday, and I had a hot dog 4 years ago, and it's at a ball game. And I miss baseball. I love baseball, and I love those baseball hot dogs, but it's time for baseball to start again. Oh,
Thanks.
let me choose. Is Linda?
Linda went. Who still has to go? Raise your hand real quickly. I think, yeah, Carla, maybe Carla. I'll pick for you because it.
Hi, I'm Carla. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I keep muting and unmuting the wrong way today. So I'm the other program assistant here. I'm also a graduate 2012. Oh my God. Long time ago. And I also teach here at the school, and I'm also teaching at another CUNY. So I get the whole remote thing. And I'm a student at Lehman, grad student at Lehman again. I'm doing my master's in fine arts this time. So I know all about the remote life and everything you guys are going through on every angle. So hopefully it can be helpful. Oranges over hot dogs for sure. I don't even remember the last time I had a hot dog, and they would have to be Hebrew National. I agree if I were to have one. And I had an orange the other night, and it was only like the 2 pieces my daughter left over, which is most of my diet. And they were hard as a rock, so it wasn't that great.
It's the worst.
Clean up her
Oh.
messes.
Great. I think Angie and Gail are both doing some extreme and excellent multitasking. Is that correct? Okay. So we'll just check your answers on the chat, but if you want to chime in, you're welcome to. And I think we got everybody, right? Yeah, great. So welcome back. Brenda, just to let you know, it's going to be a bunch of information for people who are in the program, so it might get a little like logisticy. So if at some point you want to be like, peace, I'll check you all later. No sweat on that. And I do just want to shout out Stefanie and Carla for a moment before we get into some of the more nitty gritty stuff. So just so you all know how things work, it made me realize, Anna, there was some point in class last semester that you were like, wait a second, how does this program work? And it made me realize that because we haven't been in person, you're not necessarily seeing how the program functions within the wider school. So the art education program is situated between both the art department and the School of Education, right? This is why you have classes with all the different letters in front of them. I'm technically in the art department and I'm the only full-time faculty. And it's a little rare because in other areas of the school, like for example, the philosophy department, we have about 3 to 4 times more students than the entire department does. Also, similarly, the art history department has around 8 full-time faculty for even less students than us. So I let you know this just so that you understand that the way the dynamics work in the college is very inequitable in terms of the distribution of things. And that's the lead up to also say that might be why sometimes there's delays in responding to emails, sometimes why there's some bureaucratic nuts and bolts, because we also are an anomaly in that we live between different schools. So for example, our colleagues in educational theater, they are fully in the School of Education. So they don't do as much straddling as we do. I tend to think of it as an asset, the fact that we're stretched across, because we actually get to meet with people from different perspectives, and we're doing that kind of code switching through these different areas. However, the downside of it is the bureaucratic layers that it adds. So that's also to say that over the years, one of the things that because our numbers are so high and healthy compared to a number of other programs, I think a number of times we actually have had more art education students than math education, which given the state of education, yeah, exactly, Esther. When I saw those numbers a couple of years ago, I was like, watch that, we're taking over. Like, forget STEM, it's all art. However, that doesn't mean that they've hired more staff or anything to support that. So Carla and Stefanie work way beyond below halftime. So between them, there's about 15 to 20 hours a week of support that they do for the program. So they do that. We work out a schedule for that, but that's just to say that as they are program assistants in heart and in mind, but in time and hours, the school does not compensate them well, and the school does not allow for extreme hours. So when they say they're program assistants, that means they go above and beyond to do what they can. They also can't do a ton. So when as you're encountering the program more and more and sending emails and trying to get feedback back and wondering, how are there 2 program assistants and I'm not getting a response? This is just what's going on behind the scenes. So all of the supply ordering, all of the class scheduling, making sure the rooms are clean, making sure everybody has information, that all falls on the 3 of us. So just to give you a sense of how it operates. And now when you're coming back on campus, you'll get a chance to see that more. So that's the part I'm really excited about, is because we are going to be in person until they tell us otherwise. So knock on wood for that, but we are going to be in person. So you have a chance to see Shepherd Hall, our beloved home. A couple of you, Jen, you've seen it. Anna, you've seen it. Esther, you made a brief moment there. I think a couple of you have been to Shepherd Hall, but that's where we have all of our classes. If your schedule says otherwise for any of your art education classes, just double check, because all of the art education classes are scheduled in Shepherd Hall. In order to get on campus, you will need to take a look at the emails that have been sent out by the school to figure out what is the most recent way to get on campus. It has changed multiple times over the past several semesters. So I think actually, Carla or Stephanie, if either of you could drop in the chat the most recent website for where to find that information. My current understanding, which is subject to change, is that we're still using the cleared for you, which you'll need to make sure is accessed via your phone that you pull up when you arrive on campus. And I believe, some of you can probably correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that you'll also need to have a student ID ready. And I think Stephanie did some investigation on student IDs. Do you want to say anything about that, Stephanie, or drop that in the chat?
Sure. So as best as I could tell, because it used to be that you could just kind of show up to the ID office like the next time that you're on campus. But it seems like now they have a procedure for you to email in your information and email in a photo, and then they'll send you the card. And I think that the card ends up having like, and then you also need to have your vaccine information uploaded because the card has a sticker. Does that sound right to those of you who have done it recently? Okay, cool. So I'm going to add a few more websites in the chat, and like between them, there's a ton of information. I would also say, because I know some of you have like longer commutes to campus and are not trying to make extra trips to campus. So I would definitely recommend just giving the ID office a call, just to make sure before you make any additional journeys, if it is far for you.
Great. Thanks, Stephanie. And just, oh yeah, Anna, chime in.
I don't know if we're leaving questions for the end, but I just wanted to say, Stephanie, that I attended a town hall with the director last week, and they said very specifically that the only thing that works for proof of vaccination, it was the, of course you have to upload the information, but then the cleared for you pass, it's the only, so the sticker on the ID, I don't think it's no longer valid.
Gotcha. Thank you.
They said the clear for you pass.
Cool. And I know that it's also now Vax Plus boosted, I believe, is what is considered fully vaccinated. So there's a little bit of a window, especially depending on when you became eligible. But yeah, just so that's out there as well.
Great. Angie's asking about picking up IDs on the first, you mean on the first day before class, Angie? I think you should be able to do that, or even on the day of your class, perhaps, but you should be able to do that. I think. Emily, then Linda.
I understood from one of the emails, I think it was one of the most recent ones, that if we, like, I already have an ID and it has like spring 2020, which was when I started, that's valid until they process new IDs. So I think that's the sticker that they're referring to, is the semester sticker. And that, again, the last thing I read is the spring 2020 is valid for right now, and we're fine.
Yeah, I think that's correct. So at one point there was a double sticker situation. One was with the semester on it and one was your vaccination sticker. And now it's just the one that Emily just said. And eventually you'll get your 2022 one. That happens for everybody. I also have to pick up my 2022 sticker. Linda.
Yeah, I called the registrar and they said that the only thing you need is your cleared for work thing, and photograph it every day. So when you're walking onto campus, even though it's good for 6 days, they want to know every day. And then they did transfer me over, I think, to the ID, the one with the link. They said the same thing. I've never been given an ID. I don't know what if I get it in time. I have a math class next Thursday. I don't know what one would do if I don't get it in time, and I've never had an ID. Would a license maybe work?
Yeah, I think I would make sure you have the cleared for you as your main thing, and then go with the license. Otherwise, I don't know the hours of the ID office, but oftentimes they have later hours. So you might be able to still get there before class. And then there is a way, folks, if you're using that Cleared for You, I will try and find the website that gives the directions, though some of you probably already know how to do this, but you can set it on your home screen. So like I just have a button for it. And so I just go to the button every time. And so that way, instead of taking a picture of it, I go to the button and, well, eventually it loads. And so that way I can just show them this every time as a button. So we'll try and find that information, but chances are if you Google like make a website, a button, then you'll be able to get those answers. So then it looks like this every time. And so it has the date on it. So it's date specific, which is why you have to be always pulling it up. Great. So any other questions about getting onto campus or anything like that? Yeah, go ahead, Tori.
Well, so, okay, so I think the ID is supposed to be mailed, right? I guess that's a question statement. Because I had
I love a
filled it out-
question statement.
I don't know, I had filled out the ID, like I did the whole, you guys had sent the email about it. I did the whole thing where I sent it to them. I did it 2 ways because you had to email them, but you also had to do it online. So supposedly I have an ID waiting for me in the mail. But
yeah, I mean, my guess right now is that
Mhm.
if you come, for those of you who've been on campus, you know what it's like going through the security. It depends on the person you get. So chances are some people you're just going to flash you're cleared for you and they'll wave you in. These first couple of weeks of class, I think that as long as you have the cleared for you, that's in fact more important than your ID. So you can show them your license. You know, I mean, I have visitors come to my office and they can come in. So, you know, you show them your license, you show them something else and you should be fine. So I wouldn't overstress the ID situation too much. Do get it. So that way you can get your discounts at various places and whatnot. But I wouldn't spend extreme amounts of mental power worrying about it until you get like sorted with classes and like you're a little bit more in a routine.
Okay, thank you.
Great. So I dropped in here a little mini agenda so you can sort of see where we're going. Sorry, I have cats who try to climb my leg while I'm on these meetings. So apologies if I like do strange movements. So you can kind of follow along here and I'll just try to go through some of these things quickly. And if we have a bunch of questions, maybe we'll figure out if we need to table them to the end or not. But so the next big thing I want to cover is the calendar. So this is some exciting stuff is that Carla and Stefanie and I have been working on trying to find ways to bring us all back together again, really centering the core of our program, which as you know, is really about how we're connected with each other, how we bridge these differences and how we're actually really present with each other. So that way we can practice that so we can be present with our students. So being connected, making the time to connect with each other, making the time to do a happy hour, to meet up after class. This is the fabric that's really kept our program together. So we're going to do as much as we can this semester to bring that back. So Emily and Angie are leading the foray on that with the art jams. They have they'll be programming a number of art jams throughout the semester. They do need everyone's help. I don't know, Emily, Angie, if you have that link to your survey handy and you want to drop that in the chat a couple times even just to remind people. They have a survey so that way we can try to get the right timing for that. But do either of you want to say anything about, they got no warning about me putting them on the spot like this, but do either of you want to say anything about what Art Jams is, why everybody should come, and maybe Saturday studios as well?
Sure. Thank you, Marit. So, and Angie, of course, if you have anything to add, please do. This was started at least last year that I knew about it by some now alums. And it's a time, like it was every other week, but we want to do it weekly, where we just get together on Zoom primarily. And then we'll, like Marit mentioned, an in-person session that we'll program as well. It's where we gather, we check in, we share ideas and stuff. We do maybe a little grounding exercise, and then we go into our own art projects as a way to keep our art making alive and ongoing, and then supported as well in this environment. So it was extremely helpful for me and so connected, especially because we had all gone into lockdown and no, online. And so having this weekly was a fantastic way to stay connected and then also remember my projects and make time for my projects. It's a little time container, right, to work on our things. And the former host, Esther, she would say, you can paint your nails if you want, like you can do whatever you want in the space, but it's your space and it's allotted time. And so I find it super beneficial. And someone who did fill out the survey, which I'll add the link right now, is right, nail art, is, oh, it just jumped out of my head. Anyway, yes, please. Oh, who said that they want to share, maybe do lesson demos, share lesson plans, which is fantastic, you know, so please come for that and learn. I've learned so much from people who are a year or graduated. We have alums who join in. So it's a great place to connect, to network, and to resource, and to just make stuff. So
Great. Thank
Hi,
you.
everyone.
Angie,
So I got to
did-
get
yeah.
some quiet. So yes, Emily put it very well. I like to see it as like a study hall almost. I never had a high school that actually did that. So I love that this is kind of that idea. And just like she said, I feel like it's a great space to test out your lesson plans or even ask a question. Maybe even if you're writing a paper, because a lot of the art jams, I was writing a paper. So even if you wrote something and you just want to read it out loud to see if it makes sense, that's exactly what the space was for. So I did love that you had a community of people, even if we were in different classes, we could still bounce off each other because it was still the same goal. And was a sense of community and discipline. Just like Emily said, I knew that I would have an alarm that would remind me an hour prior that it was happening. So I was just like, all right, I know I have my time for work. Like I have a space designated for it. So I did love that I could be a part of this idea and that we could do it safely and in person, especially if anyone ever needs that togetherness or even just more supplies or needs that space, that also helps too. So I'm glad we could do this and that we're all able to even meet safely now that you guys are all right, because things are a little crazy for lack of a better description. But thank you all for taking the time out for this. And hopefully you guys can come by. If you want to put your camera off, that's okay too. Like, so just as long as you know you have a community of art-based and education-based friends and colleagues.
Great. Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Emily. And so building on that, one of the things, actually, one of our very last sessions together right before the pandemic in 2020, a number of current students and alumni came up with the idea of having Saturday studios. And those involve just us opening the studios that we have where there's art supplies, there's space to work, just as an open space for folks. So we just started doing that a little bit last fall. Am I frozen? Am I okay? Okay. And we'll probably continue that again this spring. So we'll choose one Saturday a month. If folks want to do more than one Saturday, we can also do that as long as there's a critical mass. But the idea is that you can come and use that space and spread out a little bit. So it becomes a little bit of an in-person addition to the art jams. I think art jams can be the core that can hold us together since you don't have to move out of your apartment. But if you do want to come, Angie, what were you going to say?
In regards to in-person and even what we were just talking about security, I guess because we're still figuring out a new system to coming back. So I guess once I guess as a whole, as we figure that out, in person will be a little easier because the last time in person happened, I spoke to 2 different security guards. It was a whole thing. So I want to make sure that doesn't happen again or anyone doesn't feel left out or something because it was
Yeah,
like the president was in town or something.
Yeah, which it seems, I think they had a lot of security shortages too, which added to it. But there's some new processes for visitors, so we should be allowed to do that. Our alumni were having a harder time coming back on campus. So those will be put out in part of a calendar that we'll be sending out in the next week or so, along with some of the more logistical things in the schedule, right? So dates by which you need to apply to graduate. So for those of you who are thinking about graduating, you're done with all your classes this semester, you need to apply to graduate. Don't be the one person every time who forgets to apply to graduate. It happens every year. There's not much I can do. baked all the brownies I could and greased all the wheels I could to help for many things, but I can almost never get anybody by the graduation application deadline. So keep your eyes out for that. Some folks will need to apply for student teaching. You apply to student teach the semester before you actually do your student teaching. Remember, student teaching is your very last semester, so you want to start planning towards that. Walk it back one semester, one season, and that's when you're doing your application to student teach. So it's usually around March or April, and then again around October, November. So just keep those in your heads. And then summer and fall registration usually begins right around spring break, which is in April this year. So just keep those things in mind. We'll be sending out that calendar information for you as well. But those are some things coming up. Thank you, Stephanie. There we go. February 11th. So if you're planning to graduate, you can actually probably go Google the link for it right now and do it. Carla and Stefanie put together this newsletter that goes out once or twice a month that will include all kinds of good information, the calendar information, profiles of artists, art prompts that you could bring and do in the art jams. So do make sure you're reading through those. We post job opportunities, internship opportunities. So make sure you're checking those. If you are not getting our emails, you should be getting many, because I send out lots of job stuff every day. Let us know and do read them. Also, make sure you're reading your City College email. So a number of you have signed up for our program email with your Gmail or your personal email, that's fine. But the college is going to send you all that important information about graduation, about student teaching, about everything, only through your City College email. And in fact, a lot of the offices will only communicate with you via that email. So do make sure that you're checking both regularly. If you miss something, I often can't help. And because a lot of times the college will be like, listen, we sent that information out. So you're really responsible for keeping on top of that. So we'll do our best, Carla, Stefanie, and I, to amplify any of those deadlines. But it is on all of us to help each other with that. So be aware of that. So make sure you're getting those emails, watch out for that newsletter, follow the Instagram for all of the additional social stuff as well. Carla or Stefanie, could either of you put the link to our Instagram in there too, just so you can make sure you're following that. Yeah, you can put City College email on your phone. Depends on what kind of phone you're having. The only thing you can't do is you can't forward it to another email. They refuse to let you do that. So you can have it come in as its own. There is a way to do it, because I have it coming in on mine. I would just say Google how to do it and you'll come up with a tutorial. Try doing it with CUNY or type in City Mail. I'm not sure how it's doing, but yes, it is possible. For advising and email. So a lot of time, I'm hoping it'll be a little different since we'll be back in person. And so the advising can be a little more fluid in this way. But the way we've been doing it these past several months is that I have a Calendly link. You all have used it. You can always sign up for times to talk with me on my own personal one. Also, Carla and Stefanie have one. So that's the Art Ed one. So there's different hours for all of those. So make sure if you're making an appointment, if you want to talk to me, then you make one on my personal one. If you want Carla and Stefanie, make sure you're using the Art Ed one. Carla and Stefanie can also often answer a lot of your questions about getting hired in the DOE, going through student teaching, what are the parameters, like a lot of the sort of nitty gritty logistical questions. So don't hesitate to reach out to them. They've both been through the program. They have survived CUNY. Carla has been in the DOE for, I won't tell you how many years. Stefanie is currently doing student teaching at Brooklyn College also. So she knows a whole set of information. So you have really extensive resources in these two. So do use them, sign up, just say hi sometimes. They probably like friendly hellos every once in a while.
I just want to add one thing. When you're signing up for an appointment, it's super helpful if you can just jot down a note or two about what your questions are. That helps us maybe look it up ahead of time so we actually have an answer for you, and also just so we know what to expect. It's fine if you don't always know exactly, because we're also happy to have a wider ranging conversation. But yeah, anything you can do to kind of tip us off ahead of time is very helpful.
Great. In terms of emails, so similarly, Carla and Stefanie are in charge of the art ed email. So that's a great place to go if you need quick answers, if you're looking for additional information. With our program being as large as it is, we have both graduate students and undergraduate students. And because I'm the only full-time faculty, that means I'm the primary advisor for 100 students. So that's why you might not get the fastest response from me all the time, but you will get a faster response often from Stefanie and Carla. However, we are trying to keep our own mental health a little bit sustained. So, you know, I understand that sometimes we've reached the point in the world where we all are like, I'm just going to fire off an email and I'm going to get that answer right away. And we forget sometimes maybe that there are people behind reading those emails. So we just encourage you to understand that, like, if you need to fire off an email, maybe you fire it off with your whatever. If you're maybe upset about some CUNY rage or bureaucratic situation, maybe you fire it off to a friend first. And then you come back and you send your nice, friendly, professional one where you get more flies with honey to us, because that just might make everybody's life a little more pleasant. And just know that you may send that email wanting a response right away, because things in our world right now, everything feels urgent. I understand. I send those emails often. But remember, we are actually not in neurosurgery or anything. Luckily, we're in art education, where we actually encourage people to slow down with their thoughts, to take their time, to be thoughtful, to be caring. So there might be a little bit of a delay in how you get your response back. So we're really trying to do the best we can with very few resources. So just as generous and compassionate as you can all be, will help us all support each other better. So that said, you know, if we happen to be online and we're able to respond to some emails at night, we will, but the bulk of the responses will be during working hours and rarely on the weekends. So just keep that in mind as you're seeking information. So that's advising and emails. You're welcome to make appointments with us really at any time. You don't have to wait until registration. You know, we're happy to go over ideas about what classes to take. I will say that Carla and Stefanie can probably give you more intel on the range of classes and who to take classes from than I can, because there's some things I just can't say about which classes to go with out of collegiality. However, former students can say much more than I can. So I would turn to them for some of that insight. I would also use we do have both Slack and that email list. So, right. So you can reach out and say like, hey, has anybody taken this class before? You know, DM me on the side for any background information on that. So you get a sense of, you know, the style of the professor or the workload or any of that. I want to say just one brief thing about exams, just because this is information we go over briefly at orientation and throughout the program, but just to have it constantly percolating in your heads. At the moment, there are two major exams that you do before student teaching. The first is the content specialties test in visual art. That one you can probably take at any point in time, because it's mostly a little bit of art history and a little bit of like art terminology. So like, what's the difference between lithography and screen printing, or that kind of, you know, medium specific vocabulary. There's study guides online. People in our program have created study guides before. Sometimes they've created little study groups where they've, you know, helped each other just prep for these exams. So feel free to do that. Use each other as resources. The other exam is the Educating All Students test. That's the EAS. And that one is all about special education and inclusive education. So that one, don't take that one until after you've had your inclusive education class, so things are fresh in your memory. And then again, reach out to each other for tips and strategies. Also use the internet to get some additional support on what to expect for those tests. From what I hear, lots of practice tests can be helpful, just because I think sometimes the wording on the questions is a little tricky. Right now, the EdTPA, which is the test that you usually do during student teaching, for those of you student teaching this semester, that is currently waived. So those people, there are a couple of you in here, those, you don't have to think about the EdTPA. For other folks, I actually wouldn't think about the EdTPA too much right now because there's rumors that they might be replacing it with something else for the future. But that's a portfolio exam that you do during student teaching. So, all these exams change and evolve over time, and we roll with them. And in our program, we've had 100% pass rate on the EdTPA, which is the hardest of the exams, because everything we do in the program preps you for actually teaching. So it shouldn't be whatever happens in terms of the exams. I think we're pretty confident that we'll be prepared. So it's just the exams for a side note. The two last things, and then I'll just say some general words and then we'll open it up for any other questions. The Connor application, we just decided to extend the deadline. We just want to make sure anybody who just joined the program also gets a chance. So we're giving folks, I think, until Friday. Is that what we decided, Stefanie?
I went ahead and said till Sunday night so that
Okay,
we have
good
the
call.
weekend for it.
Good call. So there you go. You have until Sunday. A couple of people in here have gotten it. This is a way to get money while also supporting the program. So it's a win-win situation for everybody. So do consider doing that. There are a couple of tasks that we need support with. So we welcome folks to bring your expertise on that. A lot of it is about just supporting the community, the sense of connection, the social fabric of our group. So take a look at that application. I believe Stefanie just sent that email out again, so you could do that. For those of you who are getting money from Connor, just recall that we don't know when it comes. So even if you're also applying for the Connor, unfortunately, it's something that we don't always have control over when the money is released. It goes through many, many, many different offices to reach you. So it requires a lot of patience, and I would not count on it up front to pay tuition, for example. But you will get the money sometime. It just won't happen in any kind of speedy way. Emily, I can see you nodding along there because I think you know that. Yes. And I do believe you're actually eligible. So I think international students are eligible. I can double check, but I don't see why not. And thank you, Angie. Angie is underscoring the perfect response to all things bureaucratic, which if we can just laugh instead of cry, or maybe laugh, cry, then we will survive this all together. Okay, one other logistical thing, and then I'll actually come back to the laugh crying. So we are very excited that this year, the National Art Education Association's annual gathering is in New York City. So I believe it's March 3rd through, we just looked this up, didn't we, Stefanie? It's March 4th?
3rd. Oh, I thought it was 3rd to 6th.
Yeah, it's like Thursday to Sunday, Saturday. It starts on the Thursday.
Nice.
March 3rd to 5th, it says here.
Great. So this is something everybody should plan on attending, and or we will find ways to sneak people in. But the student rates are usually cheaper. We will try and find additional ways of whether it means sharing name tags so that way you can sneak in. But there are ways around that. And yes, we've all been both rejected and accepted at various times. So don't feel nothing other than pride for having submitted something. But we do have a lot of alumni and current students who will be presenting. So we'll be
I got rejected this year, but I tried.
Nice. I had one accepted and one rejected. So, it happens to all of us. But it's a really, really great opportunity to see. I think my favorite part of it is, now I'm going to sound like really like a hot dog, whoever said that earlier. However, when people come from all over the country and they're sharing what they do in art education spaces, and then I watch our students present, I'm like, yes, this is why we are quite on top of things. And we're doing things in ways that are, a little more student-centered, a little more tied to contemporary art practices, and way more justice-oriented than lots of other places. I'm not trying to say we're better than other people. It's not what I'm saying. However, I am saying that it is nice to have a sense of like, oh, right, we're like, we're doing something interesting here. And, so I think that's cool. It's also really nice to connect with people from across the country who are doing similar things, because there's great stuff happening. So you get to meet people from all over, current students, alumni, veteran teachers, professors, people you're reading about in all of your classes, right? So you'll be like, oh my gosh, there's Lois Hetland, or there's, so-and-so I just read about. So it is really fun. Plus, we usually do a couple social things during that time to support each other. We did just unfortunately find out that we used to always meet at Johnny Utah's, which had a mechanical bull, and that's where we would toast everybody who was presenting. Unfortunately, COVID also took out the mechanical bull, so we're going to have to find a new place to gather for that. So just keep that on your radar. I'll be sending out more information on that. That does remind me, one thing back to the calendar, just real quickly, is we are also planning a couple of other events that are more social or oriented, revolving around these different professional development workshops. So the first one in February will be on February 8th at 7 p.m. And that's all about presenting at NAEA. So we'll share some tips, we'll do some collective strategizing. And then on March 16th, we'll do one on mindfulness strategies in the classroom. And then on April 7th, we'll do a session on teaching portfolios. And these little professional development sessions will all be online on Zoom, so you can do them after class or just watch them later if you can't actually attend. Additionally, we'll have a welcome back happy hour, probably at Harlem Tavern, because they're outside, unless we can find another outdoor place. So if you live upstate, can you tell I barely ever leave Brooklyn anymore? If you live upstate in Manhattan and you want to tell us where there are good bars that we could go out, please let us know. Otherwise, Harlem Tavern's a big space, so we could go there. We'll be doing that on February 7th from 7 to 8:30. So those of you who have the Monday class, hopefully you can just hop on down. And then we'll have the NAE party likely on March 4th. And then the graduation party will either be May 25th or June 1st. We'll send out all these dates, but I just want you to get your mind set on the idea that we have parties and that there will be good times ahead. Because the final thing I want to say is that I do really want to acknowledge it's been a very challenging several semesters, right? I don't think any of us could have predicted how this would have all unfolded, right? And I think many of you who started with us in person have kind of also felt that each semester it kind of the challenges get different and more complex, right? And I'm not going to lie and say that I think this semester will be easy breezy. However, I do think that the things that will carry us through are the fact that this program does attract people who care about people and who are committed to ideas of being there for each other, being compassionate both with our students and ourselves, and really trying to bring a sense of joy and commitment to what we're doing. So I'm just going to remind us of everything I told you at orientation. For some of you who just heard this at orientation, it'll be fresh again to your ears. But remember that the only way to survive grad school is with a solid sense of humor. We are in a very complex system of CUNY, of City College, connected to the DOE. There's a lot of bureaucracy. Like I say, we're a smart and scrappy program within a deeply underfunded college. And that's no one's fault other than society's fault for your lack of supporting public education. But we do what we can with very little. And we've been able to create a program that really thrives based on a sense of love and commitment to similar core values. And so I ask everybody to hold those core values as best they can, even on the days when you want to throw your computer across the room or you want to send off all those fiery emails. Take a deep breath, know that we're all in this together. We are deeply in it together, and that we'll do the best we can. We're going to bring as much joy as we can. We're going to have some good times together, and we're going to try and be as humane and creative in how we keep moving through this all. So I'm going to leave that there. I see a bunch of questions in the chat. I have not been reading the chat. Stefanie and Carla, could either of you, is there anything that we definitely need to address in the chat or that I should answer?
I think that you've actually been answering stuff as it's popped up.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't see anything that we haven't covered yet.
Okay, great. Any other questions from folks?
Victoria asks, when do we have to pay for our classes by?
That's always a good question. Let me say something about that, because that is actually a good question, because I have heard many different things from students over the years. Hold on, that says moist and slimy. Sorry. Learning about frogs in the background. My best guess here is actually using there's some information online that will say you have to pay before classes start. There is other information that I have heard through the grapevine that is, if you do the payment plan, then you actually can pace it out more. So maybe I'll just flip it out over and see if anybody here has intel on that, because I think each person is able to navigate their own situation. It does take perseverance with financial aid, because I think there's like the party line, and then there's when you go and you're like, but I actually can't pay right now. And then they do their best to work with you.
There is a fee with payment plan though, I believe.
Yeah, it's like a one-time, relatively small, but yes, they do make you pay for it. But yeah, that's how I'm currently paying for the semester, like for the program I'm in, the CUNY program. And it has been very nice not having to do the lump sum at the start of the semester. I think you just enroll through CUNY first, if I'm remembering what I did correctly, but I see that a couple other folks have hands up too.
Anna, do you want to go, and then Linda?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, I wanted to say about the payments. There's a calendar for Bursar. So depending on when you registered for classes, depending on the date that you registered for classes, it says when you need to pay. In my experience, that's why some people get confused about, oh, they dropped the classes because I haven't paid. And that's because maybe you needed to pay earlier, depending if you registered earlier. But I was trying to find that calendar and I wasn't able to, if someone else has it. But it's not the academic calendar, it's like the Bursar payment calendar. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was responding to your other question there. Yeah, actually, I just saw somebody posted something about it on Instagram on like CCNY grad studies. So what Anna's saying is correct. There are certain dates that are dependent on when you registered. But at this point, it's the beginning of classes. In terms of your other question, Anna, the last day, so the way it works is at City College, you'll see anybody clicks on the academic calendar there, it says, this is the last day of classes. However, we're all responsible to hold some form of an additional final exam. So in art ed, we don't do final exams, we do like presentations, or we do gatherings, or we do one-on-ones. It depends on the professor. And so that will happen before the 24th. Linda.
Oh yeah, I just, from my own experience with the bursar's office, they deregistered me, and they're real hot dogs. And for the advanced certification people, you're not eligible for financial aid. So sometimes it can really put you in a bind. So my advice is just pay before classes start, especially if you can't register for classes anymore after Thursday. They can still, miracles happen, but if you can, obviously if you can't, but it's just my own. They literally took me out of every class. They were hot dogs, but in all fairness, I'm a hot dog sometimes too. So.
I mean, everybody's a little bit of a hot dog sometimes. So yeah, I think it is really tricky, and you do have to, I'm hoping that once you can go back into the office or call and actually get people, it'll be more helpful. And I should say there are emergency funds of money too. If you are in a pinch and you're like, I can't pay, there is money that can be found. It takes a little perseverance, but there are forms and stuff that I can help you fill out to get that money. Nina, you're asking about materials and methods. So thank you to anybody who has signed up for materials and methods who is dealing with this. On Saturday, I got a hold of the dean And I was like, what happened? Where did it go? And they found out somebody accidentally just canceled the class. So it's back on at the exact same time on Mondays that it was before. So it's Mondays, 4:50 to 7:20 in Shepherd Hall, 303 with Natalia Nakazawa. There will also be some undergrads in it. So I think it'll be kind of a fun semester because they bring a different kind of energy. But I'll send some information out about that, but it is what it was, even though I know that information is missing on CUNY First. Other questions about anything at this point? Yeah, Linda.
Yes, sorry, just a quick question. This doesn't apply to everybody, but I had to unregister for graduation because the registrar, when I called just a couple weeks ago, they said I couldn't add classes or something. So I got the help from this gentleman, Mr. Dennis, and he registered me. So then I went to go on the link on the student center to re-register, and it said you're withdrawn from graduation. So I've been chatting with Dennis, and he said I'm not. It says on his side that it shows that I can graduate because he fixed something, but on my student center I can't see. So one of the registrar folks was yelling, not yelling, but they were upset. You know, I do it too. And they were upset because they're like, why can't you see what we see? And I'm like, it doesn't show up on my student center. So when I call registrar, they're like, I don't know. Some people can see it, some people can't. So I'm kind of in a panic a little bit because I was like, that would stink to not graduate. So what is your advice on that? Because it does say you're withdrawn, talk to your advisor, but Mr. Dennis says I'm okay.
So let's, Linda, send me a note with all of that. Usually what happens is I think they assume that you will have already registered for your spring classes or your final semester classes once you apply to graduate. And so it might just be an order of operations thing. And yet, I mean, I can't access how your screens look also from the student perspective. So a lot of times the information is off. So just send me an email and we'll resolve it. There's no freaking out allowed until about it until like March or April and that. So let's just get the application in again, and then we'll follow up to make sure it's okay before February 11th. But just get the application in by February 11th, and then I'll let you know if freaking out needs to happen. Sometimes we do need freaking out in order to get things to happen. So I will enlist that power when we need it.
Sorry, Marit, when you said the application, what do you mean by that?
So did you say
student center, you just click saying apply for graduation, but it won't let me do that because it says I'm
so
withdrawn.
Linda, why don't you and I just try and solve this? Okay. Because it sounds like there's a glitch and we'll deal with it. Cool. Anything else from folks? Yeah, Anna.
Yeah, well, I asked in the chat, I know this question is way too much with time in advance, but by any chance, do you know approximately when the fall semester starts? Just approximately?
You know, approximately, it's usually the last, in the 20s, the last, like I would say the 26th, 27th, or 28th. It's usually around there.
Yeah.
I think maybe once it was the 24th, but it's like that last week of August.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Mariah.
I don't know if I was just wondering on the Connor Fellowship thing where it says like the thank you letter, and I didn't really know what that was, or I Googled CCNY thank you letter. Nothing came up. Because it said change bold sections, and I like it must exist, but I don't know where it is. Yeah.
Carla, Stefanie, do either one of you?
Yeah, there's a template for it, which I probably left off of an email, but we can get that to you. So the way that the Connor stuff works is after we get all the applications, then we get everyone's paperwork together. And so sometimes folks are really good about sending every single thing in at once. And other times we like have to go through a checklist to make sure that we have everything from everyone before we send it in to City College to get everyone paid. So don't worry if you don't have every single thing, Mariah, and also anyone else who was wondering what like a random form was. But yeah, we'll get that to you. It's just like a form thingy.
Yeah, I'm cool to wait. I just was like,
Yeah. Thank you for asking.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. And so I should be on campus multiple times. I'm still sorting out my schedule a little bit because my classes are a little bit in flux. But I will definitely be around Tuesdays, some Mondays. I want to come by and see City Art Lab on Wednesdays and Thursdays. So I'm happy to meet with people on campus. I'd love to have people stop by and say hi. So I'll send out those hours when I can. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing you all in person and getting the semester going. So it should be fun. All right. Well, thank you all. Can you just unmute and say goodbye and like, see you later and all that cute stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.
Bye.
Stay safe, everyone, and stay warm.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye, Desi.